So, my contribution to the team, more than to be focused on the United Nations, is it is mainly focused on whose investigation of the health in certain countries in Asia. For example, I had to research about the health in Nepal, which according to statistics, it's kind of low. They don't they don't research much on how to develop uh, good health stuff or clean sanitizers, stuff like that. No, to us that's really common. But if you think of it, it may cost a lot to a government to apply those changes, and they could really make a difference when talking about health. So yeah, and Vietnam also was one of the countries I needed to investigate about. And I found out that the child mortality in Vietnam is lowering, but it is still very high, which is sad, but well, we're kind of thankful that they are lowering the child mortality. And we can't judge the country for it because we have to see everything they have been through. They've been through many different problems, and I don't know the main reason of it, but I can't tell whether Vietnam is good or bad for child, just maybe the conditions. And I could say it is primarily because of the health issues they have, because just like Nepal, they have low statistics and a high, not only a high child mortality, but also adult male mortality, which is caused mainly because of the excessive use of tobacco. Going on, there's Thailand, the third and last country I needed to investigate about. And looking at their chart, sorry, it's pretty amazing. It's completely different. They are really high. They not high in a bad mode, but I mean they've got good services. They have a really low child mortality. Even a lot of years ago, they weren't even at the top of the line of what the UN recognized as bad. So yeah, Thailand is going pretty well. And the other part of my investigation was looking for the government they have. Is it democratized or not? So starting off again with Nepal. I think Nepal, of what I investigated, it's going through the way. It's going to a democratic state, but in a low rate, not that fast, but they're going kind of stable to that. Now, Vietnam began its democratic regime when human rights were applied to people. When the right to live was applied to people. So imagine, I think that day was crazy. Now, the last but not least is Thailand, which they've been trying to get into a democratic state ever since 1932. But they've been kind of like, yes, maybe, maybe not. Up until now, Thailand is still trying to become a democratic state, but this is enabled thanks to because people are saying, yeah, let's have a military government, and the others are like, no, let's have a democratic government where we have the right to choose. So yeah. Oh, note, all the information I found was from 2013, so I couldn't really tell you if Thailand today is a democratic state or not. Thank you.
Nepal, almost the half of the population of Nepal is in poverty, and they can't sustain a family. The kids suffer more because they fight day with day to survive, and their rights doesn't meet. They have a very high mortality in children. From 5 years, its percentage is 41.6%. There are around 1.6 million children in the age of 5 to 17 years working to survive. The childs work a journal of 16 hours in a fabric of carpets. The organization Good Wave is a foundation that his first mission is to save children from the hard work that they need to have. In the institution, the children can play, go to school, have a normal childhood instead of have a job and suffer the problems. The Foundation Good Wave works in different countries like Nepal, Afghanistan, India, Germany, United Kingdom, and United States. The principal cause from UK and US in this foundation is because a lot of the childs that they kidnapping and are sent to these countries to work and exploit the childs. Poverty. The childs from India, Mongolia, and Nepal are suffering problem, the same problem, poverty. In India, since 1991, they are having an increase in economy, but their people stay in poverty. One of the main things that characterizes this area is inequality for the citizens and religion they have in the country. The income from India is 2060 billion of dollars, but they have a population of 1295 billion persons. The United Nations are a day with information and they have information that the kids are being recruited for the army. They are taking kids that have poverty, others are kidnapping and recruited by force. In Mongolia, the 36% of the population are in poverty. There are some differences between states and regions. The kids suffer more because the families don't have enough money to have a better service of health. They don't go to school and don't eat. His PIB is from 12.0 million dollars, but they have a population of 2,910 million of people. The United Nations started to send schools to the kids in Mongolia, putting kindergarten mobile schools in the country. There is when the kids have the first contact with the numbers and letters.
Afghanistan has long been an incredibly contested land, not for its resources but for its geographical location. This is because it is right in the middle of China, India, and the Middle East. Afghan nations often fight amongst themselves, only uniting towards a common enemy. Afghanistan is relatively easy to conquest but almost impossible to occupy. The Great Game, a competition between Britain and Russia for India, led Britain to three Anglo-Afghan wars. These wars were caused by the British paranoia of Russian accessing India. The British finally left Afghanistan in 1920, which is celebrated as Afghanistan's independence. During the Cold War, Russia also tried to control Afghanistan in order to put down Muslim nationalists and get a stronger grip of Asia. The UN passed a resolution asking the Soviets to leave, but were ignored. Afghanistan was eventually supported by the US and the Soviets left in 1989, only to fall years later and let Afghanistan fall to the Taliban. Then 9/11 happened in the US and the Bush Doctrine classified Afghanistan into its axis of evil, making no distinction between the terrorists and the nations who hosted them. The conflict in Iraq and Syria started with the Arab Spring, but dates back to ancient conflicts between Sunnis and Shiites and hate towards the Western world. Being denied the Great Arabia, ideas of democracy started to rise in the Middle East, and independence movements happened all over the region, except for Syria, where al-Assad oppressed the movement at the expense of innocent lives. This led to rebel groups called the opposition, and more radical groups, such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda, to occupy both Iraq and Syria. There were three main parties to this conflict: the al-Assad government, mainly backed by Russia; the opposition, mainly backed by the US and France; and ISIS. Nobody likes ISIS, and even Russia is willing to sacrifice al-Assad in order to get rid of ISIS, as long as the new government is Russia-friendly. The conflict created problems for the Western world as well. Having a refugee crisis and recent terrorist attacks on France, ISIS is trying to create fear and hate towards Muslims in order to recruit them and create their perfect Islamic state.
Indonesia. More than 50% of the population are living in conditions of poverty, making them to be in a hunger situation. Also, it exists malnutrition in children. To solve this, the government should break free the private sector, creating more economics, especially for poor people. Malaysia. Senpai people, one of Malaysia's indigenous tribes, as many other tribes, are struggling for having a better life. They live in a subsistence way. The solution is for people to help them and for the government to achieve and to achieve what uh, their purposes for helping semi people. Vietnam. Vietnam has been struggling in reducing hunger since the last century, showing the results that in the 90s hunger was 90% and today it has dropped to 10%. But there are also areas which haven't received any progress. A solution will be to provide poor people for economic opportunities so the state grants them compensatory payments.
Sustainable development is a development that meets the requirements of the present without damaging the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Sustainable development is believed to have started in 1962. People started to understand how closely linked was technology and the environment. This was only after World War II. Many technological advances in favor of war, such as the atomic bomb and machine gun, were made without taking into consideration how it would affect the environment. Also, other inventions, such as pesticides, were affecting animals, environments, and plants. And let's not forget about the mustard gas. Up to today, Asia has grown an interest in sustainable development. On May 16, 2015, all the members of the Economic and Social Commission of Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, gathered up on Bangkok to discuss three main points.
Young Women is an organization made by the UN in order to fight against gender inequality. They are getting alliances with other campaigns in order to make a stronger impact in our society. They try to implement CEDAW, a treaty made in 1976 to confront gender inequality. Young Women is fighting for the empowerment of women and against the violence, discrimination and inequality against women. In Yemen there is a 20 to 30% displaced women, and that number has grown about 9% because of the current crisis. This is due to men that got recruited to fight, leaving spaces on jobs that are needed to be done. In Yemen there are 100% Muslims, and Muslims have a huge inequality against women because it's their religion who says them to. When it comes to belief, it's hard to say it's right or wrong, and they can take it either aggressively or as an offense. They are also aiding China by helping 44 projects against gender inequality and funding $50,000 of the government to the government, civil society, and academic institutions. Also in Cambodia, the UN has achieved some progress due to the intervention of the government, civil society, and the international agencies. Colombia ratified CEDAW, but it was still having a low progress until gender equality became a sensation and they started getting more progress. And that's how UN helps countries in Asia.
Drug trafficking. Drug trafficking is the legal trade of drugs all around the world that involve not only its distribution but also its cultivation and manufacture. Drug trafficking in Asia has been found since the 12th century, with the Shanghai Opium Commission that began the first attempt of regulated drug trafficking in the region of South Asia and other regions like United States, Great Britain, China, and Japan. In China, the drug trafficking have declared a common enemy to the humanity. Its government, Xi Jinping Li, has started some actions to stop the drug trafficking in Asia, just like stop some Chinese celebrity to produce a high-profile warning to the rest of the people. In China, the drug problems have caused the arrestation of 40,000 people in China in the only first month of the year of 2014. This is mainly caused by the most used drug in China, the methamphetamine, which have caused that the detention that are related to this drug double in all over the world, mainly in Southeast Asia and North America. In the part we have India. India have recently grown in the drug trafficking problem because of the economic growth that the country have experienced in the recent years. India has become a drug trafficking center for other countries. This action have debilitate and make vulnerable the border of India to drug trafficking, taking place through land border, sea and air routes. The countries that use India as a center of trade are mainly Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, but also countries of South America like Bolivia and Peru use India as center of trade and also as a pasha to other countries. The actions of India to stop the drug trafficking involve the improve the vigilance in the country to help to further increase helping to stop the drug trafficking and also improving the frontiers, making them more secure and by looking the help from its neighbor and the international community. The action have taken Philippines is increase the cooperation among the agencies to increase the enforcement to stop the drug trafficking. The drug trafficking in Philippines is also severe. In 2012, the United Nations World Drug Report showed that this country had a high abuse rate of methamphetamine in East Asia. It is that of 2.1% of the Filipinos around the age of 16 and 62 consume methamphetamine. The Philippines had increased the cooperation among the agencies to increase the efforts to stop the drug trafficking. In conclusion, drug trafficking is a problem that can affect anyone in any country in the world. But the UN have taken some actions to stop this problem. They create laws to stop the drug trafficking and also they cooperate to other agencies to stop the drug trafficking in the country, stopping the traffickers and seize the drugs.